Next question is, what is your favourite book that you've read in translation? And I think that would be The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, which is so epic. Is just amazing. The translation I read was by Robin Buss, which I've heard is definitely the best translation out there, and I found it to be fantastic. I definitely would recommend that one. I don't have another one to compare it to, but in terms of readability, I thought that was fantastic. I was completely sucked in by that story and just inhaled it basically. The next question is, when is there going to be a next 1001 list? And she really needs someone to answer it for her, and I really need somebody to answer that for me too, because as I've spoken about before, I follow the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list, and so does Erica, and they'd been coming out regularly every 2 years, and there was meant to be one last year following that pattern, and it never came. So I'm going to say hopefully 2016, and they've just missed an edition. That would be cool, right? 2016? Still a long time to wait. Next question is, what is your earliest bookish memory? And this is something that I'm not sure whether I remember or whether because of photographs of it I think I remember it, but definitely one of my earliest kind of bookish things is I used to read to my cats. So always from kind of around the age of 3 I think, we've always had a cat, and that first cat that I had, there's photos of me reading to the cat, and then the next cat that I got when I was 4, again, there are photos of me reading to the cat, and I'll find them and I'll put some pictures up here. And I don't know whether it's because I've seen those pictures so many times that I think I remember reading to them, or whether I actually do remember reading to them. I'm pretty sure I remember reading to the cats. The next question is, if you could have any career ever without having to do the studying or work leading up to it, what would it be? And this was a hard one too, because I'm pretty happy in my career actually. I'm really, really happy with the job that I've been doing since February. All of my jobs have been library related. Now I'm in the IT department with the Library Corporation, working with data, which makes my anal mind so happy because I get to fix errors. The career that I always talked about as a child, kind of as the one day maybe thing, was as a writer, and I don't have any ideas, and I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it's something that I talked about. So in terms of preparation for a job, I wish that I already knew more about grammar and about editing and stuff like that, that if I ever sat down to try and write something, it would be so garbage, and I'd be, you know, breaking all the rules of grammar and not having the proper expression, because I'm pretty hopeless really. And the last question is, your house is on fire and you can save 10 books, what do you save? And for this I've decided to go with kind of nostalgic things, because most books can be replaced. You know, it's just a copy of a book, you can replace it, but I've chosen books that have more sentimental value to them. So because of that, I've got a lot of kids books, and I've brought them here to show you because they're lovely bit old copies and things that people probably haven't heard of outside of Australia, or even in Australia, some of them, and so I'll run you through them now. First one I've got is something that was in one of my recent On My Shelf videos, and this is Mulga Bill's Bicycle by A.B. Patterson. This copy is older than I am, and it probably came to us quite beat up already, but it is a precious old copy, and these illustrations just make it, so this would be something that I would definitely grab because it wouldn't be easily replaced. And I know I ran all through this in my On My Shelf video, but I can't resist showing this picture just once again. The next one I have is another Australian one, and I've never met anybody else who knows about it, and it's Platypus Joe, which is written by Louise McConnell, and it's about a young Aboriginal girl kind of in the bush of Australia, and it is so lovely, and I can hardly even remember the story right now, but this copy is so old and so precious. It's lost its spine somewhere along the way. There's tears in it, and it's completely kind of yellowing, but there are such beautiful illustrations in this, and it's just such a gorgeous book, and there's no way that I want to lose it, because I don't think we'd ever be able to get it back again, because it's something that I've not even heard of here, let alone elsewhere. So if any Aussies watching have heard of this one, do let me know. I'd love to hear from somebody else who has read it. And now that I've grabbed this one to show it here, I'm definitely going to have to flick through it and refresh myself of the whole storyline as well, because it's definitely something that I had read to me and read myself quite a bit as a child, and was just wonderful. The next book I have is absolutely disgusting, but it again is something that I don't think I could ever replace, because there just won't be copies of it anywhere, and that is To Read and to Tell which is an anthology of stories for young children chosen and edited by Nora Montgomery. My mother used to read to me from this a lot as a child, and I absolutely loved it, and it's precious and I'd never get rid of it, but I think it's like literally growing things. It's just disgusting. Next up, I have my copy of the Magic Faraway Tree series by Enid Blyton, which was another of my absolute favourites as a kid. I adored Enid Blyton, and these are my favourites. This copy has issues, obviously. It got wet once, there's a leak in our roof, and so it's got warped pages, and obviously this is something that happened, and it's missing its title page, and it's yellow, and it's well loved, let's put it this way. Next up, some more childhood favourites, and this one's not necessarily a special edition, and I could purchase it again, but because it is a favourite and I've read it so many times, I've got Snugglepot and Cuddlepie by May Gibbs. Snugglepot and Cuddlepie are gumnut babies who live in the Australian bush, and is just delightful. So again, if there are any Aussies watching who read Snugglepot and Cuddlepie as kids, please let me know, because I love these books so much. And so in that tradition, the next one I have is Bottlesnakes and Gumballs by S.A. Wakefield. This is my copy, which is a bind-up of the 4 books written about the Bottlesnakes and Gumballs. So again, probably I could get another edition of this one, although S.A. Wakefield seems more obscure than May Gibbs, so I don't know whether it's still in print. It'd have to be shortly. But this was my copy, and I have read it many times, and I love it. Next up, I have to choose one from the Tomorrow series by John Marsden, which I've spoken about before and earlier in this Q&A. And so I have picked the 7th book, the last book in the series, which is The Other Side of Dawn, which has a little less wear than the other books in the series because it came out later, and so I've read it less times. But I picked this one because it's actually signed by the author. It's not necessarily a very exciting inscription, but I couldn't not grab one of his books, so this seems like the best bet because it's the one that has an irreplaceable element at least. The next one I have seems to be, well, you've got to have this, don't you? And that is the first book in the Harry Potter series. It seems impossible to make a list like this and not include Harry Potter. Like, that's one of the rules, right? And so this is my original copy of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So, might as well save that. So that gets me to 8 books. Probably I would also grab whatever I'm currently reading because I'm in the middle of it, and that might distract me from the horror of having my house burned down. But for number 10, because I guess I've got to save at least one book designed by Carly Smith, because you'd expect no less, right? I would also save the box set of the Tales of the Thousand One Nights because it's beautiful, and also this went out of print once, and when it came back in I snaffled it up. I don't know whether it's in print at the moment, but it is an absolutely gorgeous edition. I probably wouldn't be able to carry it if the house actually was on fire because it's freaking heavy and huge, but for the sake of picking 10 things to save, I'll make this one stand in for my entire Carly Bickford Smith collection. I've just realised that I skipped a question earlier from Lil, but that's okay because it actually does join up with the next question that I've received, so whoops, but it works out. And so the last question I received was from Brock from Let's Read, and he says, "That looks like a comfortable chair. Do you do most of your reading in it, or do you have other crazy reading places?" And Lil from Lil's Vintage World also asked, "Where do I read?" And so this is a really comfy chair, and no, I don't actually do my reading in it, which is just stupid, I think. And I really need to change that. Most of my reading I do either on or in my bed, which is kind of behind the camera over in that direction. And so that's where most of my reading takes place. I don't know why I don't sit over here. I think it's because kind of I can't tuck my feet up in it. I did buy a footstool for that purpose, and it is quite comfy in here, but then the cat kind of comes to try and sit in here, and we haven't kind of juggled around how we get her and a book in my lap curled up on the chair at the same time. But we really need to work that out. Also, most of this year, this is spent completely covered in books because Booktube. So usually the chair isn't free, and I have to move big stacks of books off here to film it all. As for other cozy reading spots, like I said, I read mostly on my bed. I also read in the car. I listen to audiobooks on my commute to work, and I also listen to audiobooks when I'm walking. And also when I get the chance, I read at the lunch table at work. And so that gets to the end of the questions. So thank you to each and every one of you for making this past year what it has been. It's just been amazing, and it's just surreal that it's been this long. So as always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.